listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. Well, hey there, and welcome to episode number 39, where we are going to explore the top 5 questions about homeschooling. So over the years, probably almost the past 10 years, I've received lots of questions about homeschooling from friends and parents just like you. Perhaps your questions are similar. So today I thought I could share with you the top 5 FAQs that I get about homeschooling. Those questions, the most common ones that are sent my way. And no matter where you are on your homeschooling journey, I think listening to these questions and my suggestions for each one will help you feel like you're on the right track, but also help you realize that you are not alone. All right, here we go. The top 5 questions about homeschooling. I'll give you the 5 questions, and then I'm going to give you some tips for each one. So, question number 1, which curriculum should I buy? Question number 2, when things seem to be falling apart, what are the most important homeschooling activities to fit in? 3, how can I teach multiple children and juggle different ages? 4, how can I feel confident and know that we're on the right track? And 5, how do you stay the course and keep your enthusiasm high on the homeschooling journey? All right, let's dive into these top questions one at a time, and I'll give you my 3 top tips for each one. Okay, the first question, which curriculum should I buy? Here are my top 3 tips. There's no one ideal curriculum. We search for that perfect with a capital P curriculum, thinking, this is what people say. I need an open and go curriculum, or I'm really busy and which one should I use? Or I want one that's more this and less that, or I have multiple ages of kids, or it goes on and on. People ask tell me their specific situation and ask which curriculum I would recommend. And yes, there are some like grade level curriculum packages some are better than others. At the same time, there's no one ideal curriculum, right? So here's what I recommend. Here's my second tip is ask around, right? You can ask friends, you can ask in homeschooling groups that you might be a part of, in Facebook groups that you might be involved with, and then just choose, right? Because if you choose to purchase a grade level, like a grade specific curriculum package, it's really important to accept that you'll never use it completely as is. And you'll probably only use about maybe 60% of it at most, really anywhere from probably 30% to 75%. So if you're okay with that, with using the curriculum more as a resource and reference guide than a day-to-day plan, go for it, right? It's really helpful to see how someone else lays it out. But please understand that the real curriculum is the one that you create when you're working with your children or your child on a daily basis, not the one you purchase. So just know that creating your own curriculum plan is also a valid option. if you want my support in doing this, come join Homeschool with Waldorf, which is a mentorship community where you can get the training, coaching, and set aside time for planning that you need so that you can homeschool with confidence. And you can check that out at artofhomeschooling.com/homeschool with Waldorf. The most important thing I want you to take away in thinking about which curriculum should I buy is that there is no one perfect curriculum, and there are pros and cons of every single one. You won't use the whole thing, so just pick one. Okay, question number 2. When things seem to fall apart, what are the most important activities or aspects of homeschooling that I need to fit in? Another way to put this is, what's your minimum baseline, or what should my minimum baseline be? All right. There are 3 basics that I want to encourage you to include when you're thinking about this. So these are for those days where someone is sick, or you're exhausted, or you're about to leave for vacation, or you've just gotten back from a big trip, or you're helping out your aging parents, all kinds of scenarios. You've just had a baby. So 3 important things to include. Observing your children for what they need. So that's first, is to observe your children. The second is to bring them the learning through the lively arts and stories. And the third is to strengthen your rhythm so that they have a sense of predictability and you all can experience a feeling of peace. So observe your child or children, bring the lively arts, and strengthen your daily rhythm. All right. Next tip is put these 3 keys on a sticky note, right? So that you can come back to them again and again to remind you of what's most important, right? Rhythm, a simple plan, self-care. Like, what is the very most important aspect to you? You get to decide the most important aspects of your homeschooling, but don't pick more than 2 or 3. I always use the phrase, think in threes, pick one, which simply means you can have 3 goals, but start with one of them, right? And then I like this rule of thumb. I created this rule of thumb, which I call, and you could adopt this or create something similar for yourself, but I call it the 30-30-30 guideline. And for your minimum baseline, what I'm suggesting is 30 minutes of reading, 30 minutes of math practice, and 30 minutes outdoors, and you're good, right? It could even be 20 minutes of each, but that could be your minimum baseline for those days or phases of life where it's the homeschooling is really hard to get to. Remember that your children are learning all the time, and if you can provide a little bit of structure, then that can really help you feel confident, more confident, and like you're carrying this homeschooling along. Third question is, how can I teach multiple children of different ages? It's a juggle, that is for sure, because a mainstream brick and mortar school is grade by grade. That's how it's set up. Curriculum is often sold that way, right? If you want a full curriculum package, you're going to buy grade 3 or grade 5. And yet in our homeschools, many of us have more than one child. So then we begin to wonder, how in the heck am I going to do that? So find ways of overlapping as many activities as you can so that you do at least some things together as a family. You can do some activities together and some activities separately. But you want at least some of the learning to be a group experience. Another tip that I can give you is to ask older children to play with or do lessons with or simply read aloud to younger ones. So perhaps you have 4 kids and you can have the oldest doing something with the youngest while you're working with the middle 2 together, doing a lesson, something like that. If you have just one in the grades and a really young one, that young one is just most of the time going to want to come along with you. And so let them be by your side. Remember, homeschooling takes place at home. And so we're a family first, right? We are interested in cultivating those connections with each of our children. And then my third tip is to consider your family to be your community. Rudolf Steiner, the creator of the Waldorf approach, actually said to his very first teachers that he wanted one of their main goals to be developing a sense of community in the classroom. So I often say, well, as homeschoolers, our community is the family, and we want a sense of the whole family to come through. So do what you can to strengthen that sense of community. All right, now we're on to question 4, which is, how can I feel more confident? This is a question we all ask at various stages of this homeschooling journey. So how can I feel more confident and know that we're on the right track? All right, here are my tips for you. If you're bringing your children the very best stories that you can find, right, and hands-on artistic activities appropriate for their age, you are on the right track, my friend. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I talk oftentimes about the lively arts, the 7 lively arts, which are drawing, painting, movement, music, speech, drama, and storytelling or stories, and modeling. There you go. It's 7 plus 1, so it's really 8. Those are the lively arts, and you don't have to be bringing them all every single day. So if you have content that's rich in stories and you engage in some of these lively arts each day, you're on the right track, because it really does build up over time. All right. Also, I encourage you to know that bringing more rhythm to your days will really help you stay on track in a deeper way. So if you want to explore rhythm further, this idea of a daily rhythm or a flow of activities, I have some podcast episodes that can really help you out. The first one I did on rhythm is episode number 3. But I also have a freebie for you over on my website. So my suggestion is create a daily rhythm chart for your family that either pictorially or in words shows that flow of activities, and then hang it up on your wall, right? So that everyone can see it and knows exactly what to expect. If you want some help with this, check out my free guide. It's called Save Your Homeschooling Day: 3 Steps to Rescue Your Rhythm for a Simple, Happy Homeschool. And you can get a copy of it over at artofhomeschooling.com/free guide. And remember that confidence comes from experience, right? So small wins count. Every little win counts. And I encourage you to be flexible and gentle with yourself. It's a creative process, right? It's not always linear. So remember that teaching is an art, right? It is an art as much as it is a science. And it's the doing that counts. So don't get hung up on all the thinking, or don't get stuck in your head wondering, am I doing this right or not? Just engage in some wonderful activities with your kids, and the confidence will grow. I promise you. All right. Question number 5 is, how do you stay the course and keep your enthusiasm high? Of course, you're not going to be overly, perfect at this. You're not going to be the most enthusiastic homeschooling parent every single day. But I do have some tips for you that can really help. And the first one is know that homeschooling is where you have the most freedom to individualize your child's education. You can meet each child right where they are and help them discover their unique gifts. And after all, that's what we're after. That's what we want for our children. I know that this takes a certain element of trust and faith, and that can be difficult, especially when we start out on this journey. But many have gone before you and proved that this is true. All right, another suggestion is to lighten up and be playful. Bring surprises. I love to start a new main lesson block, a new month with a surprise, something that our children don't expect, and have fun. Remember to laugh a lot and enjoy your time with your children. And my final tip for how to keep your enthusiasm high or stay the course is to take really good care of yourself. Good sleep, exercise and movement, healthy food, and fun. All of this self-care. Self-care is not selfish, right? It's not an add-on or a luxury for when you have extra time, because you won't have extra time. Believe me. Self-care is critical, right? And it helps you feel good so that you can show up as your best, your very best self, and bring that to your children, so that you can be really totally present with them. Self-care also increases your chances of this homeschooling gig, like working out for everyone, for the long haul, in the long run. All right. Well, I hope that these FAQs about homeschooling provide just the reminders that you need today. And I want to end just with 3 things that I really hope you can take away from this episode. The first is you are not alone. And if you want a community of homeschoolers, come join Homeschool with Waldorf. You can find it, a link over in the show notes. But if you're looking for support and fellow travelers on your homeschooling journey, we would love to have you. So the first is you are not alone. And the second is you are exactly where you need to be. Trust that. And finally, you are exactly what your children need. All important reminders for all of us. So thanks so much for tuning in today. And you can find the show notes for this episode with the links to any of the resources that I recommend over at artofhomeschooling.com/episode 39. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.